Hey guys, and welcome to the most broken game I've ever done a Let's Play for.
Remember, the boss had 57,000 HP from the start.
No, not that one. That one's not so much broken as it is poorly explained and very difficult to master without multiple walkthroughs. Holy shit, was I wrong? No, not that one either. That one's only really broken if you really master and exploit the Judgment Ring, which is kind of a skill that you have to learn all unto itself. We just got into battle with this. I may even show part of my, like this whole footage uncut or something like that, but, yeah. If you want a quick and easy way of defeating Omega, you can use Selfie's the End. And it's the instant win button. We already did that one. And it's kind of more exploitable really easily than flat out broken. But, yeah, this is becoming a trend. Anyway, I already did those ones. Welcome to the most unintentionally broken game I've ever Let's Played. From the game mechanics, to the combat, to the glitches, and even the translation. Welcome to Let's Play Final Fantasy VI. See, I told you this game was completely broken. It doesn't even know what game it is. It can't even get its own name right. Yes, this is going to be, at long last, Let's Play Final Fantasy VI, regardless of the fact that it says 3. I'm playing the Super Nintendo version, the original translation of the game. And, well, to start with, I think we'll give you a little taste of some of the other renditions we've seen of this game. Namely, the PSX cinematic. Alright, so this is the PSX cinematic. There were actually 2 of these that were released along with the game. I think technically in their theater section of that version of the game, there's like a 3rd one, but a lot of it looks to be like the same footage, just with slightly different music. So I'm not gonna bother showing that one. I'll show this one now, and assuming I remember at the end of the game, I will show the one that plays after everything has already happened. Neither of which really seem to have a great deal of bearing. Like the ending one isn't like a big ending, you know, showing anything that happens at the ending. It more shows what, you know, it's just another trailer, just like this one is. Anyway, I said this game was absolutely broken, but before we get into kind of talking about some of that, I do want to recognize that this is not as good as the cinematic originally looked. This is with AI upscaling. I found this particular copy on YouTube, and it looks a hell of a lot better than the original. So if you look for it on YouTube, you can find it. Just, you know, Final Fantasy VI cinematics, and it's one of the first few results on there, so. Now, this game is absolutely loaded with bugs, glitches. The battle system is all over the map in terms of how broken it is. In fact, if you want the TLDR and you don't really want to watch the entirety of the Let's Play, which I recommend you do because, you know, that would be nice. But if you don't really want to, and you don't want to bother watching it, basically the TLDR is accumulate as much magical power as possible, and you can annihilate pretty much any enemy in the first half of the game without really having to worry about any type of strategy. And then for the second half in the game, you're going to want to switch things up a little bit. And you're going to want to kind of focus on building up your defense in terms of your equipment, and elemental protection, and your magical evade. And once you have that, you don't really need to worry. You can just go balls to wall and kill enemies super fast, and you won't have to worry about it then. You just need to do that kind of equiption thing beforehand. But that's pretty much the strategy for the rest of the Let's Play. We're going to annihilate things really, really quickly. This game also has some of the most RNG-heavy combat I've ever seen in an RPG. It's kind of weird that way. So even with the ideal perfect, defense setup, you can still end up getting screwed over by bad RNG a lot. Anyway. Oh yeah, one final thing before we actually start to play this game. I would like to show you...
Okay, kid, show me what you got.
The original North American commercial for this game.
Next! Yes!
Because it's fantastic.
Next. Ooh, scary. Next! 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 Next!
Final Fantasy III. Do you have what it takes? Final Fantasy III from Squaresoft.
Next!
So yeah, I absolutely love that commercial. Mog is fantastic. And anyway, let's actually get into the game. Long ago, the War of the Magi reduced everything to ashes. 1,000 years have passed, iron, gunpowder, and steam engines have been rediscovered, and high technology reigns. So, stepping up from the fantasy setting of the previous game, Final Fantasy V, we've moved on to steampunk. But there are some who would enslave the world by reviving the dread destructive force known as magic. I don't understand why they started doing this in later Final Fantasies, and then with some of the re-releases of changing the spelling of magic to include a K as well. Why? What is wrong with magic? Anyway, can it be that those in power are on the verge of repeating a senseless and deadly mistake? Well, since this is an RPG, probably. Wouldn't surprise me one bit to see that. Now, if you watched my Let's Play of Chrono Trigger, the sound effects you hear might be familiar. The text goes automatically here, by the way. Hard to believe, an Esper's been found there intact, 1,000 years after the War of the Magi. Think it's still alive. And yes, this game has Vix and Wedge. No, this is Biggs and Wedge. I don't know how, but Ted Woolsey, who translated this game, managed to muck that up twice in 2 different games. 50 armored soldiers in under 3 minutes. Well, that's some damn impressive shit. Slave crowned on her head robs her of all conscious thought. She'll follow orders. Probably a good thing for you guys. Why was she slaughtering your own soldiers again? Was that before the slave crown? Anyway, we're gonna move out. So, as you can hear, the music is fantastic. This was a who's who of everyone who's been big in Square, both in the past and even currently. Sakaguchi was involved, Uematsu was involved, the old school translator Ted Woolsey was involved, and as I said, the same kind of sound effects guy was also involved, which is not a name you tend to see show up all that much, but he will show up here in a moment on the credits. This is kind of a new aspect to the game that they didn't have in Final Fantasy 4 or 5 with the, I believe they called it Mode 7, where basically it shows kind of like the progressing without the overhead view. And if you'll notice, the mountains in the background, we're actually getting closer to them over time. Now, there are 3 different utilities that I have looked into over the course of trying to do my test run for this game. One of them was a Doomgaze Finder, which I was thinking, awesome. By the way, this is the sound engineer, Eiji Nakamura, who did both the sound engineering and the sound effects for Chrono Trigger as well as Final Fantasy III. And there's Ted Woolsey doing the translation. The translation's a little weird. We'll get to that. But first, gotta love that wind sound effect. They stole it straight out of Chrono Trigger, and I don't care because it's fantastic. I've always loved the sound of it. Let's put her on point. No sense in taking any risks. So yeah, they've given us control over question mark person, who we can take a look at her gear. However, you can't look at the other 2's gear, except if you press the circle button. This is the circle button, the A button. I know which controllers I'm using. I'm actually using an iBuffalo SNES controller. But you press the A button, and then you can choose who to select. Then press over to the left. You can actually select everyone. This will show not only the weapons and armor and all that kind of stuff, but it also shows relics, which are basically the accessories of the game, even though we don't have any right now. Other than that, I have a whole whack ton of stuff to talk to. Let's start a battle so we can start talking about things. Imperial Magitech armor! Not even Narshe is safe anymore. Alright, we've got dudes to fight. Standard ATB system, I believe it's set to weight by default. We have some of the same abilities for everyone. We have Fire Beam, Bolt Beam, Ice Beam, and Heal Force. These do kind of what you would expect. Heal Force is healing at HP, not status. But let's take a look at some of these. This character, who's unnamed as of yet, has a bunch of other options. So let's take a look at some of the other options that she has access to. Confuser. I'm guessing this inflicts the muddle status, which is the confused status of the game, and it does. You'll notice the enemy has turned around. The sprite work in this game for the monsters is absolutely phenomenal. Pretty much every monster has some really cool stuff for how they're designed and how well the art kind of shows up on the screen. Now, the reason I'm using the Super Nintendo version of the game for this Let's Play is the sound font kind of gets trashed in the PSX version, and there's loading times and it's terrible. The Game Boy Advance version also killed the sound, and I think it had a different translation and they fixed some bugs. Meanwhile, I kind of want to show off as many bugs as possible, and I think this is going to be more fun. So it's also the one I'm most familiar with. So I'm not doing that one. I don't think the Game Boy Advance could really handle the game all that well in terms of the sound quality, and so it's just not there. I don't want to lose the sound quality that I could get out of this game because the soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal. So definitely don't want to do that. All right. Can we get up? Yeah, we can't get up there. We're stuck in this Magitech armor and we can't really move in such a way, that we would normally be able to. We're kind of clunky and slow at the moment. Let me in here. It won't let me in anywhere. So we'll just keep going forward, I guess. Alright, so we've got him trapped. Now, as I was saying, there's 3 different kind of fan utilities I've found for this game. One was a Doomgaze Finder, which I thought would have been really, really cool. By the way, press the X button in order to switch to another character's turn without making use of them, which will be nice. Bioblast, let's... I'm just going to use it on you, whatever, and I'll show off Heal Force here. We can start healing up some characters. That is an interesting color. Show off some of the new abilities here that our unnamed character, which I'm having a lot more trouble avoiding spoiling her name than I thought I would. Every time I go to talk about her, I was like, oh, I'm going to know. Don't say the name. Not yet. So yeah, she does have some interesting abilities, as you can see. She's the only one who has access to them. But yeah, a Doomgaze finder. I thought this is going to be awesome. Well, it's such an old utility that it only works with ZSNES save states, which I no longer use. So there's that. Tech Missile's probably her strongest ability right now. There we go. The second one was a Velt Monster Finder, which I couldn't even get to run on my computer. Again, most of these utilities are rather on the old side. There was one more that showed up that I thought, you know what? This would be an interesting way of both doing a test run and having kind of things all laid out for me, but still having something unique to offer, something that I could react to in the moment because I hadn't seen it during my test run. And that is Wonderbar. Now, Wonderbar is a unique utility that, let's just do the heal force on you, and then Bioblast. Now, it's a unique utility that shows the translations, all the different translations of the original Japanese text, because Ted Woolsey, he did what he could with this game, but his original script was twice as much, took up twice as much space as there was actually text boxes that would allow for that text to show up, because the original Japanese didn't need to use as many text boxes because their characters allow the same thing to be said in a smaller amount of space. So not only did he already do the entire work to translate the entire game, but after that, he had to basically rewrite the whole thing because it was taking up too much space. So the translation's a little wonky. It's also been censored to absolute hell. And on top of that, there were a couple other translations, namely the Game Boy Advance translation, as well as there was originally a fan translation for this game. Now, the fan translation, from what I gather, isn't really all that great. But what this utility allows for, and you'll see it in a moment here, is showing all these different translations all at once on the fly as we play. Now, as you can see, I've recentered things on the screen there a little bit. I'm going to go with the idea of using this on the side as we go through the game. So the videos will still be rendered 16:9 just to give me space to do all that. And yeah, I think this is an interesting little feature here. It includes the original Japanese text, and if I play around with it, you can kind of see highlighting different things, gives me the ability to see kind of direct translations for certain things and stuff like that. It's a really, really cool feature. It gives us access to the Game Boy Advance translation, the fan translation, and a direct Google Translate, which, oh my, this is gonna be fun. Other than that, I have actually added a couple other things to this particular ROM. Just little minor hacks to make my life a little bit easier. But kind of the point that I want to get across here is, obviously we have the Woolsey translation in the game, so we don't need a sidebar for it. Now, one of the things that we're going to do a lot of is switching from our equipment menu to the relics menu. But for some reason, they didn't include a feature in-game to do that. So one of the ways I've modded this game was to press the Y button and allow me to switch back and forth. It changes nothing other than saving me time of having to go out of the menu, scroll down, go into here, and then exit out, go back, go over here, play around. It's going to make my life a lot easier. The second one that I put in is, for some reason, I'm not sure if it's emulator related or if it's something else to do with them not including it in this game. There's no soft reset by LR start and select. Now, I'm not going to show you that because why would I just reset the game? That sounds like a bad idea. But there's a save point over here. Eerie glow surrounds you. Want to learn about save points? Yeah, so you can see there's different parts of the translation. Sometimes it's very, pretty much bang on. Sometimes it's a lot different. The Google Translate there is not necessarily ever going to be right, but it'll be interesting to use it as kind of a way of looking at how the actual translations translated it and seeing it's like, okay, this is kind of a more blunt force trauma, incorrect way of translating it, but they've read this word this way. Now, does that make sense between all the other ones as well? Which one do you think makes the most sense for this, this game and where we are with it? Do we want info? No, we don't need info. Save points do exactly what you think they do. You go on it, you can save. You can also use a tent. I don't have a tent. But when we get tents, we can use tents. All right, there's one final one thing that I added here, and it's just to make your life and my life easier when we finally get to the Colosseum much later in the game, so I'm not even going to talk about it, but I'll kind of acknowledge it when we get there. Anyway, yeah, Vix and Wedge, or rather Biggs and Wedge, this is another Star Wars reference. There's going to be a lot of them in this game. They went balls to the wall with all the Star Wars references in this game, and it's pretty great. I love it. Anyway, one other thing on the text, next time we get a text box after fighting battles, the rats they absorb poison, so the only multi-targeted attack we have right now is our question mark ladies. All of these beams will one-shot all the enemies, by the way. The only multi-targeting attack we have is Bioblast, and these guys absorb it, so let's not and say we did, okay? Deck missile! Boom. Perfect. All right. We got some tonics. Now, an interesting note here, a potion. Now, if you look over on the side there, this later on was translated to High Potion in both the Game Boy Advanced and even the Google translation got this right. High Potion, spelt differently in the fan translation, but it's the same idea. And the tonic is the actual potion of the game, as it would be in pretty much every other game. I'm not sure why they did this. This was a weird point in time for Square when they experimented with calling your basic healing item tonic, both in this game and Chrono Trigger. I'm not sure why they did that. Every other Final Fantasy, hell, every other Square game I know of uses potion as the basic healing item, so that's just kind of a weird thing. But anyway, there's a path over here, but we can't progress through there. Not at this point, anyway. So let's just go on up here. Stand back?
Stand back! There's a hurricane coming through!
Hey, give me those sprint shoes. I want those. But we won't hand over the Esper. Welk. Oh, I'm supposed to be giving a chance to go over the dialogue. It's going to take me a little while to get used to that. Think back to our briefing. Now, normally it does show certain bits of battle text as well. I'm not sure why it's not showing anything here. Monster that eats lightning. Stores the energy inside its shell. Don't attack the shell. Now, there's actually a speedrun strat in attacking the shell that delays a certain thing that's going to happen relatively shortly here. But yeah, let's go with the tech missile here. And I didn't even look up. Did they say it was weak to lightning or it absorbs lightning? I think it absorbs lightning. Anyway, the battle mode's on wait. You'll see every time we activate a skill, it shows up on the translation there. Now, I'm going to go into the menu. We're on wait mode at the moment. Alright, so you're just going to use slime, so I'm not worried. Okay. See, this is what happens. The game doesn't really give you a good kind of a time period. I guess you want to go with 3 attacks, because if you attack the shell, it counters with Megavolt. it don't feel too good when it does that. But yeah, what the speedrun strat involved in attacking the shell does is it will... Okay, good. I used it on the right character. It will... I think what it does is it delays the time part of the AI script for the slug to go back into its shell, and it allows you to finish off the fight in one round, or well, not one round, but before the thing goes back into its shell at all. So it saves you a bunch of time. But other than that, I think it usually gets into its shell once, maybe twice. I don't think I'm gonna... Yeah, there we go. So yeah, usually finish off in 2 rounds and you're fine. It's not like it's difficult or anything like that. But yeah, basic introductory fight gives you basic ideas on strategy and what things are going to be like in terms of combat in this game. And I hit a random battle at a terrible time. Well, that's a thing. We'll finish off these guys and move on. Now, we're not going to be stuck in these tanks for the whole game because that would seem kind of boring. We have these elemental abilities that cost no MP, and why would they give us abilities that don't cost any MP that do way more than our normal attacks? That sounds like a terrible idea. They wouldn't give every character that basic ability, now would they? This is the Frozen Esper. Now you'll notice the fan translation used the term Phantom Beast in terms of espers in this game, and the Google translation makes no sense. But that's fine. This isn't battle music. Who are you talking to? And what's going on? An eerie light. Where's that light coming from? Whoa. What's happening? You want to know what's happening to these guys? Well, unfortunately, that's pretty much all for this one. If you want to know what happened to Vix and Wedge, and what happened to this poor girl, you'll have to tune in for the next episode. That's all for this one, and I'll see you guys next time.